I think we've just blown the engine. Yeah, that's not good.
We've got 25 days to go until Lydden Hill, and that's a big task, getting that engine rebuilt in time and put back in and tested and run in and all of those things.
You can look inside the sump. We got big chunks of metal, and when you're looking actually to the engine, you can see we've had a rather catastrophic, looks like conrod failure. Yeah, so basically that's it. Yeah, game over.
Hello everybody, welcome to episode 5 of Project Race Car. Now, we managed to get a new engine in the car and fitted in time for this weekend at Lydden Hill, but sadly I wasn't able to race as I had to go to London and commentate on Formula E. So it's over to Big Neil for this weekend.
Okay, morning everyone. Well, here we are, Lydden Hill. Neil's in the driving seat at thelastminute.com. Tom's Formula E commentating, so he'd entered the car, said to me, I've got to do this, do you want to drive it? I was like, okay, we'll go for that. This is brand new car, never been raced. Pretty nervous about it all, really. Don't want to damage it or break it, but we'll see how it goes. Got to go out for some sighting laps shortly. Give that a go, see how the car goes. Never driven this new layout of Lydden, so it should be interesting. At least the rain stopped. Should be a good day, fingers crossed. Watch this space.
So then, let's get ready to go for Dad's first race in the Fiesta Rallycross car. Lining up on the grid in P9, somebody fails to get away in front, has to take avoiding action at the start, which kind of halts the progress initially as they drag down towards Talladega, though. He can see that Clio firmly in his sights, and knowing Dad as I do, I'm sure he's going to go for the outside line. Slight snap of oversteer there, but gathers it up okay. And look at the momentum he's able to carry there as he's blinded by the dust in front. Over the jump he goes, he's up into P8, so good start to the race here then for Dad. But the problem is we're coming in towards the power section of the lap, through the Devil's Elbow and up the hill, and we've got a stock engine in this Fiesta. It's only putting out about 120 horsepower or so this is where the lack of power is going to become apparent. And look at that, the Saxo pulls away and the Clio comes past as well, so it's back down to P9 for now for Dad. And I wonder whether he'd be able to make an impression at this point. This race is a mixture of both 1600cc and 2-litre engines, so there's a wide variety of cars. He's going 2x2 with the Saxo here as we come through the chicane and across the line, but a snap of oversteer there. It's a really brave move if you can make that stick, but Dad just backing out a little bit. Anyway, later on in the race, you can see him here Still all over the back of the Citroen, but just no way for him to find his way past as it stands for now. Up the top of the hill and into the hairpin, just sitting there in P9, so second to last really in this race. But of course this is our first race in this Fiesta car, so it's always going to be a test bed, this one. And Dad not doing too bad of a job. As the race continued on, that was pretty much all she wrote for him, unfortunately. There was a later retirement in the race which bumped him up into P8 out of P9. Not a bad way to start.
Yeah, it's going well so far. I did my little qualification bit at the beginning. A bit of an incident in practice. Managed to turn the engine off, which obviously killed the wipers and bumped into some tyres. Sorry, Tom. So there's a little dent that I wonder who will repair that though. So yeah, good. Heat went well. Car's going okay. A bit underpowered. Probably a little bit too soft at the front, but brilliant on the dirt. Yeah, looking forward to the next heat, really. Further up the grid, so see if we can get a better position to finish. Happy days.
Heat 2 then, Dad lining up 6th out of 8th on the grid for this one. Let's see whether he can make an impression with the field all being bunched up in the opening stages. Lights go green, and it's a fairly average start from Dad. Of course, the lack of experience with the Fiesta not helping him get the optimum run away from the lights, but makes a couple of positions, somebody failing to get away well and leapfrogging the red car in front of him. And as the field begins to bottleneck up through Talladega and over the jump, I wonder whether he might be able to make an impact. But as we come and emerge from it, look at the Saxo in front of him. Big swapper there. That causes Dad to have to get out of the throttle as they come through into the Devil's Elbow, which cost him a fair bit of momentum. The problem was the car, I think, that failed to get away from the lights stopped on track. That then brought out the red flag, and as the rest of the field came through to complete the first lap of racing, the race was halted and then it was down to a restart. So then, the field having to make their way back round to the starting grid. Time for part 2 of the race as the lights go green and we get underway, and once again not a particularly brilliant start away from the lights, but Dad trying to hold it the long way around the outside. The issue we have here from a footage perspective is that the GoPro on board failed at this point, so it's a bit of an exterior point of view, but we can see Dad here going the long way around the outside of Talladega. Loads of momentum there on the Citroen C2 as he drags alongside, but the problem is he's on the rough stuff. Adverse camber, big tank slapper, that cost him time and ultimately drops him back as they come over the jump some 3 or 4 seconds, and unfortunately that would be pretty much all she wrote for Dad's race. So somewhat disappointing really, given the fact that there was a fair bit of promise. It's 8th position at the checkered flag for Dad at the end of Heat 2. Heat 3 then, ready to go for the start of this one. Dad lining up on the outside of the front row of the grid. Not a particularly bad launch away from the lights, but as we head down towards the first corner, that's where the lighter, more agile and somewhat more powerful cars will come into play. You can see Dad down into about 5th position, jostling on the outside of the yellow Citroen Saxo as the race lead changes hands, with Mark Henry taking over in his Alfa Romeo 147. As the field came over the jump, Dad sitting in 6th out of 9th position at this particular moment as they went side by side for the race lead and had a bit of contact into the left-hander of the Devil's Elbow. So Dad's still trying to challenge for position. One of the Saxos stopping, Dad having to take to the grass, as a matter of fact, at that point there as well. So real evasive action. If anything, though, it did benefit him. He got himself up into 4th place as there was that retirement, and somebody else dropping out as well. So only 7 cars now remaining in this one. So if Dad can finish here, this will be his best result of the day so far. Let's see whether he's going to be able to do so. He's closing up onto the back of the Saxo. I wonder whether he might be able to challenge for a podium before the end of this race. The problem is, as I've mentioned throughout the entirety of this, the lack of power really is beginning to hurt us, especially coming through the Devil's Elbow up the top of Hairy Hill. That, unfortunately, is where the problem lies, because everybody else has got about 120, 130 horsepower, but some of the cars are about 100, 130 kilos lighter than us. The Citroen that we had was the same curb weight, but it had about 10, 20 more horsepower, and it doesn't sound like a great deal, but it does make an absolutely huge difference. So Dad just doing a really good job, and crucially, of course, getting some mileage on the board here as well, as he sits in 4th place, and a relatively quiet race from his perspective, but doing a good job just to keep things on the straight and narrow, bring home some data and some ideas for us to be able to improve the car the next time that we go racing. So, through on towards the final lap we go, and Dad's still sitting in 4th place. Something of a lonely race there for him, but a really strong result. Good mileage for him, kept himself out of trouble. I think he'll be pretty pleased with that, because I certainly was.
Well, Heat 2 was good until I spun, but I enjoyed catching up back with the pack. Rookie error there, put one wheel on the grass and a bit of come dancing around we went. The last heat was good. Nearly had a massive accident with a guy who broke his steering and was disappearing into the barrier. Had to drive on the grass. There was a rizzle of paper between it. Glad Tom's cars come out unscathed. Don't mean my underpants did, but hey ho. So yeah, we'll see where we are in the final now. Hopefully we've got some half decent times, and hopefully they won't water the track before our final again like they just did. We'll see how it goes.
Time then for the A final. Dad lining up in the middle of the 3rd row of the grid. Not a bad start, but not a particularly brilliant one there either, as he heads down towards Talladega. The field beginning to bunch up. Pollard in front of him in the yellow Citroen Saxo. Keep an eye out though for Charlie Maroney on the left-hand side of your picture. Great start for Charlie as he goes through from the back of the field and ahead of Dad. And Dad probably had to get out the throttle there because James Ash in the Citroen C2 was slightly slow on the inside line. Anyway, over the jump we go. 7th place it is as he begins to settle into the race. Later on you can see James Ash and Pollard then going side by side with one another as they headed across the timing line. Those two knocking 7 bells out of one another at this point, and I wonder whether Dad might be able to take advantage as he heads through into the first corner. He's looking for the outside line here. The problem is if you get too wide there, you get caught on the rough stuff, on the dirt on the outside where it goes really deep all of a sudden. It costs you loads of momentum. That's exactly there what happened to Dad, unfortunately, and it just disallowed him the opportunity to challenge as they came through onto the jump. So a little bit later on, back into 7th place he is, but Pollard and Ash still going toe-to-toe with one another up in front, and that's allowing Dad to close up onto the battle for 5th place. And I was keen to see whether he might be able to challenge, but keep an eye out behind as well, because Sam Noy in his Citroen Saxo is not too far adrift of this trio of drivers as well. And Noy, of course, in a lighter, faster Saxo compared to our Fiesta. He may have an opportunity to try and challenge for that 7th place and drop Dad down into 8th position. Bit of bodywork coming off of Pollard's car in front. Up the top of the hill we go, and Dad holding on to 7th place for now, then closing up onto the back of the Saxo in towards the first corner. Close there, but no way through for him at the moment, as Pollard once again looks menacing on the back of James Ash here. So good battles going on up and down the field, as we always see in BTRDA Clubmans Rallycross. But what about behind? Where is Sam Noy? There he is, side by side here with Dad up the top of Hairy Hill, looking for the outside line at the North Bend. Dad going for the inside line, but that might run him wide, and Noy gets the switch back absolutely perfectly. And now it's a drag down the hill. We know that Citroen is going to be that little bit faster, so I think Noy's going to get through on the inside. Indeed he is, and up into 7th place then for Noy, dropping Dad down into 8th position out of 9th then. And Noy there trying to challenge Pollard as well and getting onto the rough stuff, costing him time, costing him momentum, and Dad there just keeping a watching brief on proceedings in front of him. So through the left-hander of the Devil's Elbow we go. I imagine this must have been really frustrating for Dad at this point, because he knows he's got the pace to run further up than he can do, but just the car holding him back at this particular stage. I'm sure once we're able to get a good tune on the engine, it'll be able to give us more power. It looks like the engine just cut out there. Yeah, it has. You can see the Dad just flailing around with the instrument cluster, turning the car back on, and that cost him, what, 3 or 4 car lengths. It's dropped him right off the back of any meaningful contention. So that's a real shame there for Dad, and unfortunately something that we're going to have to rectify next time out as well. We've got that race panel on the dashboard, which is part of the ignition and how we start the car, and that really cost him a bit of time. But it's 8th place for Dad at the checkered flag.
Well, there we go, final over with. I can't remember where I came, about 6th I think. Couple of issues with the car just switching itself off for this fancy switch pack that Tom bought. I think that's going to have to go in the out tray, as it turns itself off all the time. Other than that, cars ran perfectly really. So we just need some more power, a little tweak to the front suspension I think, but it's there or thereabouts. So happy days. And sorry about the windscreen, Tom. It took a bit of a beating, so we'll have to talk about that. And there's a bit of rubbing action on the other side, but rubbing's racing. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have, like, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.